Good morning, Mom. For today's question, Dave Samuelson asks, okay, I need to put from the wisdom for a moment. I haven't figured out a sound way to make a thermos of coffee to bring with me to work. Having an extra cup or two to enjoy through my day on the road would be fabulous. My setup is a single cup pour over, nothing fancy like some have, just basic. How would you just make essentially 2 cups in that setup, one at a time, or double the coffee? I figure if I double the coffee, it'll take forever to brew. Thoughts? Friends, my main concern is the process to fill my thermos to get good coffee for my day. I drive a fuel truck, so I don't have access to many things, and time is of the essence. The more I deliver, the more money I make, and gas station coffee leaves much to be desired. Initially, we're roughing it. We're going to go with what we got to prove the concept, and we'll improve things in time. All right, very good. All right, so welcome to the show, everyone. How you all doing, Mom? Good to have you, and everybody that's joining us. This is the Coffee Q&A, our daily live stream of coffee questions, answers, and just general coffee talk for whatever we want to talk about at 10 a.m. Eastern every Monday through Friday. So I'm Jay, your host. Welcome to the show. So I found this question. I thought that was really quite interesting. How do you? So a little bit more backstory. Dave is he's he's delivering gas, I believe, to different gas stations, and he gets up at 3 a.m. and then goes to work and delivers all day. And I guess the more they can deliver, the more money he makes. And currently he's making coffee as a pour over, is my understanding, and wants to have more than 1 cup. And I get it. You go to these gas station coffees and they're kind of rough, man. I mean, I've had them. I've had a lot of that recently because as we're preparing for the new shop, I've been trying different things just to be aware. And yeah, I get it. So I'm going to make some presumptions here. He's got a big thermos and he wants to have at least 2 cups of coffee. So we're talking, let's say we're talking 24 ounces of coffee. So a regular cup is 12 ounces. We want to talk about double brew. So 24 ounces of coffee that he can drink along the way. And this is what I've come up with. So this is the thermos, right? Those of you are probably familiar, most of you are probably familiar with this. This is the Stanley thermos. It is the ubiquitous working man's thermos. Like, this has been produced for generations now, right? So Stanley's a company that started in 1913 making vacuum flask out of stainless steel. So the interiors are stainless steel and the exteriors are just steel that has this painted textured surface, right? It's really a classic. It's a classic. This is a particular one that's called Aladdin Stanley. And in 1965, the Aladdin Corporation bought Stanley from William Stanley and, started making their own thing. So what is the thing about this Stanley? And then in 2002, after a decade of mismanagement in the 90s, Aladdin as a brand and Stanley as a brand were sold to Pacific Marketing International, PMI, a company based in Seattle, and basically they're basically just a brand owner, right? They farm out all of the work for all the new Stanley stuff, right? So this is the new Stanley. This is the new hotness, and all of this is made overseas in China, whereas these were all made in the United States. So truly American, and this is American in name. Now, there's a big difference between these two. Like this is much heavier than this because nowadays, starting in 2009, Stanley moved to something they called quad vac technology, which has some kind of 4 layers of insulation inside the vacuum jacketed container, right? So in this particular model, there is a stainless interior. Dan, good morning. How are you? So we got the stainless interior, and it's really quite thin. It's a very thin, and it holds fairly well from my understanding. But this quad technology allowed them to go to different metals. So now they're using 18-8 stainless instead of 304 stainless, and lighter weight material. So they can go to a thinner. I think they went to a thinner outer jacket. So these new quad vac allows just to be thinner, whereas this thing is a monstrosity. This is a beast. Like, I could club my enemies with this. And I'm sure in the workplace, people have been clubbed with these. And the great thing about this, it's so heavy duty that you can club someone and you probably won't, you maybe kill them, but you won't damage the Stanley. So quite an excellent piece of material. Like this has been the choice of construction workers, roughnecks, you know, all kinds of like working guys that are like solid. And one of these things, this is, so what this uses is, it's basically steel, a stainless steel outer, I believe. So it's stainless steel outer or just steel outer that is pretty thick in steel, especially compared to this one. And then it's coated with their green hammer coating. On the inside is, let me get the other one here. So I've got two. I've got this one and the food version. This is the food version, right? Also from the similar era, but has a bigger opening, so it's easier to see. But let's look at this one. And this is their food container, 24 ounces. Good morning, Michael. How are you? And as you can see, I was just rinsing it out earlier. But inside here is also stainless steel jacketed, right? Now, the thing about these is that, and let's look at this, right? So let's look at we'll take this one off too. Why not? Take this one off. And this one comes with a pourable spout so you can drink with it. But if you look at this, like look at this thing, this container holds a quart, 32 ounces. This holds 24, right? These are some pretty beefy things to hold very little water. So the water that's being held in this is the same amount of water being held in this Nalgene, right? 1 quart. So, and this thing is like ready to bludgeon. Eduardo, good morning. The self-defense of coffee show, absolutely, absolutely. We were going. You want to hold it like this, and then when you're ready, you can thrust, right? And if you take the cap off, you can get a little more of an impact, right? Anyway, but they're really beefy. So it's stainless steel, I believe it's 304 stainless steel on the interior, a steel exterior with this coating. But the difference is that this era, prior to 2009, used charcoal dust as an insulator. So back in 1913, when this company first started, the big thing was a lot of people were using, what is it called? They were using glass as an insulator. And like, if you remember those old thermoses, right, from the Thermos company, especially if you're like my age and you were young and people would have these thermoses, or even today, you'll find glass lined insulated vessels, which work great until you bludgeon your coworker with it, and then if the glass breaks, then now you have to replace it. And especially back then, these were pretty expensive. Like I was reading a report that said, back in the day, like maybe in the 20s or 30s, when you bought one of these, it was equivalent to spending $150 to $2 today, which is a lot of money. So you don't really want to break them if you're a glass one breaks. And so they would use steel glass liners, and then it would be insulated with cork, where this one is stainless steel inside, steel outside, and in the vacuum layer, it's charcoal dust, which evidently works as a really great insulator. They say that the reports that I was reading said that these will keep, like, let's say you put it in a boiling, or let's say you put it at 200 degrees. An hour later, it's still really hot. And then 24 hours later, it probably will be right around 100 degrees. Now, of course, that's if you just keep it sealed. If you're pulling from it throughout the day, reducing the volume, you're going to lose that thermal energy, and it's going to go down a lot faster. Michael says, is it just me, or is this common where the coffee seems to taste different after being stored capped for more than 30 minutes? It seems a little muted and less bright, crisp after being stored. You know what, Michael? I'm not sure. I mean, I imagine I haven't dealt a lot with long-term storage of coffee, meaning like that 30 minutes of coffee storage. I'm going to have to do some, now that you bring that, I'll do more testing, because as we get ready to open this new location, we're going to be going to batch brewers into air pots. So I'm going to see if I'll keep that in mind. We'll do some testing. Maybe people do a show on it, and we'll brew some coffee in one of the commercial brewers and see what happens over time. That's a great question. But I would imagine so that it would have some impact. And Dan says that he's had that example as well. But here's the thing. So if you're The reality is that if you're drinking your coffee, you got coffee that you like, that you enjoy, that you know, and you put it in the thermos and you wait half an hour and you notice, well, then it definitely has changed because there's no you've noticed it. So that's something to keep in mind. I could tell you, I could give you all kinds of scientific data and reasons until I'm blue in the face of why that may not be happening. I'm not saying that it's not, but I'm just saying, like, you know how you talk to some people and they're like, oh no, 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 no. They're defending whatever position they have. So they're like making up all kinds of stuff about it. No. If it tastes like it's changed to you, then it has changed for sure. But we'll do that for a future video. All right, so here's the thing. So I was thinking, this is all Stanley. Let's get to Dave's question and let's use the Stanley brewer because I've been curious to know about, can I brew a full quart using this? And it should, because it's pretty thick, right? I mean, it'll hold a lot of, let me zoom out a little bit. It will hold a lot of volume, right? This is pretty sizable as far as, as far as, the size. And Michael says that I noticed that during the hike. Yeah, if you notice it, it's true. But I guess, the thing is, like, there's a lot of purists that are like, that may be like, well, you should always brew to order. Yeah, yes, of course. Yes, you're going to get the best results. But like, someone like Dave is willing to make some sort of compromise because of other mitigating circumstances, right? Like I was having a conversation recently online with this guy talking about, like how to preserve coffee, how to freeze coffee, or, how to, keep it as fresh as possible. And we're talking, and as we get into our conversation, we talk about how to, freezing techniques and when to freeze and all that. And then finally he's like, well, he's like, well, the coffee that I'm using is Starbucks. And I was like, well, with Starbucks, if you look at their bags, they have these use by dates. Use by dates are typically 1 year from the date of roast. And the way their distribution works is that that coffee will not get to the store typically until about 6 months after the roast date. So by that point, the coffee really has reached a state of equilibrium. Like for me, 2-3 months out, that coffee has bled off all of its CO2. It's kind of gone through its phase of, like, I don't know, let's just say there's a level of fabulosity, right? The coffee is fabulous at this one point. Let's say maybe 2 weeks out to, let's say, a month and a half out. But once you reach 2 months, it probably declined a little bit, or it's reached a point where it's going to be relatively stable for the next couple of years because all the changes already happened, right? So then I was like, well, I don't know if at that point you need to even worry about all of the any kind of thing. Like, for example, that SM that we had from Tim Wendelbo. Like, there was a point where it's like, well, I don't have to. It's been so many months that I don't really worry about what happens to it. Like, I'm not worried about. We just want to keep it stable and in light and cooler temperatures. But otherwise, it has reached whatever point it's going to reach. Mark's back from Norwich. What's going on? Oh, it's finally sunny there. Excellent. The rain has totally stopped. Excellent. And Dan says, but that muted coffee will still, yeah, absolutely. It will still be much better. Well, hopefully, it depends what you're buying, but hopefully it'll be better. So today we're going to try this. But okay, so like I was saying, I was going to use this, but then I was like, you know what? I'm playing with it, and it doesn't fit well, right? It doesn't fit well at all on this. Look at this thing. Like, it's all wobbly. Like, why in the world? Like, I don't know if this is the modern style, right? Like, meaning that I don't know if the dimensions on the modern version is like this, but if you're designing, I'm like, Stanley, why didn't you design it so that this fit inside the food container? Now, this little tiny ring here, this little tiny inner ring will fit with this lip, right? So it will fit inside the lip, but man, it's wobbly. It's wobbly. Like, okay, maybe it's not going to fall off so easily. It's catching on that lip, but that makes me nervous. I mean, and then this part of me would want to brew like, I'd go for it. But then I was thinking, you know what? Here's one of the details that Dave was talking about. It was that he gets up at 3 a.m. to go to work, and he wants to do something that's really simple, and like, he doesn't really want to take all of this. He's 3 a.m. Man, nobody wants to be too functional at 3 a.m. And some of the other guys that had replied to his question talked about, doing things like, well, you should buy a Technivorm and get a Zojirushi. And it's like, dude, he's probably got some kind of thermos already that he's using. And then to go out and buy a $300+ brewer seems crazy. Like, I get it. Like, it's easy. You put the coffee in, you hit the button, it's done. You don't have to do anything. But I don't know if he wants to do that. Like, I don't know if he wants to spend that kind of money for a brewer. Maybe the other alternative would be to buy the Olsen brewer from Simply Good Coffee. That's about $100, which is a great brewer. Brews almost as good as a Technivorm, or maybe as good. And so, but now I was thinking also 3 a.m. If I get up at 3 a.m., what do I want to do? I want to sit here and pour over? No, God, no. Good Lord. I'm barely able to function at 3 in the morning. The only way I can function at 3 in the morning is if I've been partying all night. So I thought that why don't we suggest using the Avid Clever, right? This is very simple, easy to use. Now, our recipes for the Avid have always been very much, yeah, exactly, Mark. Not very stable. Scary, especially at 3 a.m. You'd be like, and then now your day is ruined, and you're supposed to leave at 3:15, and you're supposed to get on the truck and get to work and start delivering and making money, and now that has been delayed. Nothing more frustrating. So I thought about the Clever. Now, the Clever, we normally use 24 grams to make a 12-ounce cup. That's what this is designed for. But I was thinking, what if we did it? We can make double, because remember, one of the things he talked about was double amount, right? So we're going to take 48 grams. We're going to put it in here. We're going to brew it. Then we're going to drop it into our thermos, and then add more hot water to balance out the dilution. Right? So let's get to try that. That's going to be our goal today. Put that over here. And we know what we're not going to do. We're not going to use the Bono kettle, because you know what? This is just another step that makes it more complicated. But let us get some coffee grinding. We're going to come on, baby. So what we're going to do. Oh, thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. So we're going to make 48 grams. Hopefully this will hold enough. There we go, 49.5. Oh, you know what? He's a working guy. He can take a little more robustness. We'll use 49.4. Really, it's supposed to be 48, but you know what? Why not? Why not? He drives a truck for a living. It's not like some kind of, guy like me that wears, cowboy shirts as a fashion statement. Uh-oh. Oh, here. Melita number 4 filter. So I hope you can hear me, but we're going to fold it over on the seams like we normally do. And that's going to go in here like this. Okay, now while we have this digital scale, oh, darn it. I forgot to adjust the grind. You want to go to very coarse. Go to very coarse. This is actually more medium. This is more for pour over, but we'll get the similar effect. A lot of static today. So well, what can you do? What can you do? Sometimes you make mistakes, and this is just part of it, right? So here's the thing. We've got beautiful things like digital scales to take care so that we can sit there and measure. But the reality is, at 3 in the morning, do you want to sit there and measure out your scale? I certainly don't. I don't care about that. So let's go a little more practical. We're going to take our coffee, and what we're going to do is we're just going to put it in here, make sure that it's all level. So there's 48 grams of coffee in here. And Mark says that I find that after about 3-4 hours, my that little heart that's in the corner of the chat always covers the first my flask coffee start to lose flavors. Yeah, see, I mean, there's definitely going to be some degradation over time, right? It's not going to be as beautiful as it was, for sure. So I'm boiling coffee in a kettle. We're not going to put it into a pouring kettle because, again, 3 in the morning, you don't want to mess with that. We're also using a vessel that's kind of, pretty much we're using a measured amount of coffee. We're using it somewhat measured. Like, we know that this will hold about 12 ounces of water, right? So we know we're already almost half the volume. So we're just going to double the volume when we go to dilute it. Now, what we're going to need is we're probably going to need a timer. So it's nice to have the timer. So if you want, get a timer out, and then we're just going to pour. We're going to pour a lot, wet everything at the bottom here, and then wait 30 seconds, and then add the rest of the water to do its thing. Okay, so here comes the water off the boil, starting the timer, and we're just going to saturate and let this bloom a little bit. So we got all the coffee that's getting saturated. We're going to do is we are going to go to 3 minutes. It's probably going to take a little bit longer to fall through. One of the things because one of the comments that Dave mentioned was, I figure if I double the coffee, it'll take forever to brew. It really theoretically shouldn't. Now, in this case, because I didn't adjust the grind from a medium grind, it will probably take longer to fall. But if you do really coarse grind, it shouldn't. And even if you're doing pour over brewing, really the ideal brew time should be about 4 minutes. So in most any brewing situation, we ideally only want to expose the water to the coffee for no more than 4 minutes, or right around 4 minutes, because that's going to give us the optimal brew. And of course, it's about coffee ratio, exposure to the coffee and water temperature, so that the water temperature really determines the rate of extraction from the coffee. So that, like, this is why cold brew takes 12 to 16 hours, because it's colder. It'll still pull the flavors out. It just I'm blabbing we're a minute into it. Good Lord. Let me pour some more water on here. We're just going to pour it, and then we're just going to saturate everything. And I'm not even paying attention to how much water. I already know that we have about 12 ounces in here. And there it is. Now we're going to wait for the 3 minutes. We're going to hold it to 3 minutes, and then we're going to open up the valve. So there it is. That's it. That's pretty much enough. It does have a lid, so if you want to put the lid on to preserve the heat, we can do that as well. Then we got our... Now, I didn't check it, but I do believe it will fit in this hole. It may be wobbly, so you're going to... So that may be a problem. Wobbly, 3 a.m., you want to make... you might have to stabilize it. Or if you want, use the food one. This is where you can put soups and like chili, and you got a big cup to eat out of. They don't have a spoon, so you just kind of, that kind of thing. I've actually never had one. These I got from Matt, because Matt bought them from some thrift store. They're well used. These are 1980, 1999 era. This is a 1988, and this is a 1994. Oh, there's 88. Yeah, they're all from like the 80s and 90s. Like, so super old school, super like true to my era. I'm going to use this one. And you can tell the older ones because they say Aladdin Stanley. Like the newer ones just say Stanley, and they have this newer logo with the little like griffin, right? All right, here we go. Okay, it's 3 minutes now. 3 minutes now. We're going to go and take this. I got to make sure I land right on it. Otherwise, we're going to have a little bit. So we got a little bit of dripping on my side. It's relatively stable. So as you can see, it's falling. We're about 20 seconds into the fall. The fall is going pretty well. Mark says, I agree with Michael's message. Could it be that the taste diminishes because of having lid cap on the coffee? Yes, it certainly could be. Also, I think that coffee will coffee under heat. I think tends to deteriorate over time, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know the reason. I don't know. I mean, I could tell you all kinds of stories, but I have no idea really. It's not something honestly, it's something because I've dealt in fresh brewed coffee, meaning that we're brewing every cup to order for the last 15 years. I don't really know too much about how holding the coffee affects it. It certainly does. Okay, that's pretty much it. I think we're done with just about a minute to fall, so we're right around that right time for. Let me put that back there. I'm gonna take this off. Yeah, there it is. Oh, nice. Nice. Now just dump that out. Super easy to clean. Okay, so now we've got about 12 ounces. Now, if we want to get technical, we can measure it out. So I'm going to take this thing. It's a little silicone measuring cup, which is really quite nice. And I'm going to measure out 12 ounces, another 12 ounces, or maybe a little bit more, maybe 14. We got a little bit extra, so let's go to 14 ounces. All right, 14 ounces. I'm just going to pour that in. Pour that in. There we go. Wipe that off because I don't want any coffee spills in my truck. We're going to put the cap on. So we've got our thing full. This is only a 32 ounce, so we're pretty close to being full here. Baldhead, good morning, man. Good to see you, Craig. All right, so let's put this on here. And then this is the lid, the cap. Now we're ready. We're ready. We're ready for some working on the truck. We're ready for a little bit of brawling at the truck stop. I wonder if I could hold it like this. Yeah, you can hold it like this, and you can tell the kind of truck stops that I go to. All right, so the thing about that cap is it got these big holes in it. Now, I don't know if it seals because I've actually never tested. And oh, it does seal. Oh, so the way that the collar is designed is that see, there's holes here, right? And I was wondering, like, and you see here, you can see the holes at the bottom. And I was like, wait a minute, how's that going to work? But I guess there is a design here that seals it up. So once you tighten it all the way down, now if we open it up, then I think it will flow. Oh yeah. Now the cup itself is pretty small. It's about 200. I read somewhere it's 200. No, that's a little bit slow. That's a little bit too slow. Let's open it up. Not bad. Oh, here's our morning elixir. There it is. Lovely. One thing, it's nice and hot, of course. That's one thing I want to do is tighten this up so that we close it off and retain the heat as much as possible. And I'm actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave this in here. And tomorrow's Saturday. I was going to say, and on tomorrow's show, we'll open up and see how hot it is. Maybe next week. So the coffee, this is the House Nation from Spro, right? It's coffee that we use a lot. And I won't say that it's as great as it would be had we brewed it by the cup a little bit more thoughtfully, with a little more consideration, also with a more appropriate grind for the setting. But I'm not gonna. But also, even though it was a medium grind, that theoretically would lead to more over extraction. I don't think it doesn't taste over extracted. At least perhaps because we've diluted it a bit. But I think that if your situation is that you you want some nice, decent coffee to take with you to work that you can drink throughout the day in a big thermos because you have to start at 3 in the morning when the world is dead to everything else. This might be the viable option for you, and it's relatively simple. Like if you don't have the clever itself. I got a link down in the description on Amazon. You can get this for like $37. It's not terribly expensive. You just have to boil some water, and so I'm using a boiling kettle from a burner, but you can also just put it in a big whatever saucepan or pot and heat up the water as you need it, and just pour it in. I mean, I'll do that a lot of times if I'm really. Actually, if I'm in the kitchen, that's probably what I'll do. So, Michael says it's counterintuitive since I keep thinking capping it would help preserve the coffee. I mean, but the thing is, like, do you want? We cap it because we want to keep it hot, right? And the coffee degradation, it's degrading, but is it degrading to a point that it's unpalatable? I guess that's really the question. I don't, like I said, I haven't done that much testing. I don't think it does get to that point. It's still quite, it's still decent quality coffee. Because it's the better the quality coffee, the better your results. So the other side of it is you could leave it capped, and maybe that aeration will keep it a little bit fresher. I don't know. These are good questions that we'll have to think more about and try. But if you keep it open, you're also losing the temperature, right? So it's the temperature's declining, and then eventually you'll end up with like cool or chilled room temperature coffee, which may be great. But if you want hot coffee, then that probably isn't great. And I think in Dave Samuelson's case, he wants to have coffee hot throughout his morning shift. Oh, you ordered some House Nation. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll make sure we get that out to you very soon. I need to go and put all these orders together. All right. So how is this? Is it as good as the House Nation I brewed last night? Not quite. Not quite. And I don't know if there's an impact because this lid, it's not steel. It's actually a plastic lid that has a chrome plating on the exterior. So is that offering some kind of flavor to it? I don't know. There's one way to find out. Let's use our tasting glass. This is so interesting. I might just have to bring this with me today on the road. I'm going to meet one of my friends for lunch and go see some other friends to see if we can arrange some things for the new shop. Yeah, the brew's okay. There's going to be a little bit of compromise. It's a little bit brighter. Doesn't have as much chocolate and not as much nuts we normally have. The body is slightly thinner. So maybe, I added a little bit too much water. C'est la vie. Live and learn. Anything interesting you guys plan to do this weekend? A friend of mine wants me to come and do some line dancing tomorrow night. I don't know. Maybe I got the right shirt for it, so maybe I should go. And I got the boots. I don't know. What do you think? Line dancing? Yes or no? Yes or no? How do we suggest? Marx wants to know, how do we suggest questions for you for future streams? Well, you could just drop them in the comments here and we can work on it. Or if you'd want to drop it in the replay, you can drop it there. You can drop them on the Instagram page, which is onocoffee with the number 4. Pretty much anyway, a lot of the questions I'm pulling here is actually from a Facebook group that I participate in called Pour Over Coffee Lovers. And I was just like, you know what, let me just pull some of these questions and answer them and use them for our discussion here. And evidently, I know you're in Ottawa, Craig, and I think Ottawa's pretty big on that kind of thing. But yeah, evidently it's I don't know if it's a thing, but and it's strange because it's happening at a place here in the area called Cancun Cantina. And I'm like, Cancun Cantina is going to have line dancing? I'm going to have my achy breaky heart there? Oh, no. So yeah, if you want to, if you have a suggestion for stream, just let me know. Put in the comments anywhere you want. I'm breathing more like our discussion today, talking about this whole thing, like how much degradation does it happen inside of thermos? Well, that's a good question. I think that's a great question. Also, I got a question for you guys. What do you think? Espresso. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah. If you were to order an American, a brewed coffee at a coffee shop, you go into a coffee shop, you're like, hey, can I get a brewed coffee? Meaning like a pour over type of coffee, or like the stuff you get from an air pot. Like you're just ordering regular coffee, American style coffee, not espresso lungo, not an espresso Americano. But if you walked into a shop and you ordered a coffee, and this is something I should have asked you guys yesterday to think about. And if you don't have an answer right now, maybe think about it over the weekend, because I'm interested to know. And if this is what you received, right? This is your Americano. This is your 12-ounce brewed coffee, right? Is this acceptable? What do you think about that? There is a layer of crema on top of this 12-ounce coffee. Off-putting, enticing. What do you think? And not just yourselves, but think about like people that that order coffee out in the world. Would that be a turnoff? I'm interested to know. Michael says, come down to Houston Rodeo. When is that Houston Rodeo? I should come down to Houston. I do enjoy going there, because I fly United. A lot of times when I'm traveling to, especially like Central and South America, a lot of my, they're going to route us through IAH. And actually, my friend runs a coffee shop close to the Woodlands. What is the name of it? I'll have to think about it. His name is Alan Leibowitz. Great guy. Longtime friends. And but it's out by the Woodlands. I've been meaning to go, but every time I've been in town that he's been in, that I had the time, he wasn't able to. But several times I like to break away when I'm in Houston and go check out. One time I was able to get down to Space Center, Houston. That was kind of epic. Like they have this, you can actually climb into the space shuttle cockpit. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's really tiny. Like it's really small in there. Like you're there for like how many weeks? It's like, that's impressive. And then like, where else have I been? Of course, we've eaten a lot of the foods. I've been to Ninfas on Navigation. I've been to, there's a place called, there was a Tex-Mex place called El Royale, because I wanted to try out like I have growing in Baltimore, when you grow up eating Mexican food here, especially during the 80s, you're eating a lot of like Tex-Mex, norteño style food, right? Which honestly, I ate when I was growing up, but now that I'm older and I've seen more of Mexico, I'm like, oh, I haven't really gravitated towards it. But I'm interested to find like great examples of it. So I went to the El Royale. Was it El Royale? They were like in a converted theater, 10, 12 years ago, 15 years ago. But I think they went out of business. And then I've been to Ninfas and Navigation, which I really liked. And then I tried to get to some of the barbecue joints. I did the whole barbecue tour of Lockhart. Is it Lockhart? Lockhart. I did the whole Ludlow Market, and then went up to Lockhart and went to Chisholm Trail, Black, Smitty's, one more. And just everywhere we went, just slice of brisket, one sausage, one rib, and just good times in down in Texas. Eduardo says, maybe that coffee needed pre-infusion, too much crema. We serve it like that. Oh, well, here's the thing. So, Eduardo, you serve coffee like that with crema? So I can't really tell you much about the process of it, because I was asked to come and do a little consulting for this development of this product. But it is under some level of pressure. That's why we're getting crema. But the curiosity is that we're trying to figure out who is this product best suited to, and how would and generally how will the average customer react to getting coffee served in this manner? Will they be off-put by it, or will they like it? George Pikeman's with us. Post-Katrina, food scene in Houston got much improved. Oh, nice. Good to see you, George. How's it going? So yeah. There's a good food. Yeah, there's good food scene in Houston. Like I'll head down, speaking to George's here, I'll head down to Stogie's World Class Cigars on Westheimer. Usually that's my stop. Sometimes I'll actually book my hotel based on like proximity to the cigar place, so that I have a a home base. But also, the problem is like it's kind of far. Like Houston, I mean, IAH is like an hour away, I think, right? It's pretty outside the city. And then for the longest time, we go to Houston and we go downtown and stay downtown by the convention center for a show. And everyone's like, "Oh man, the traffic in Houston is terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible." And I remember driving around downtown area, like, I don't see any traffic. There's nobody here. It's like it's so light in the traffic. And then I went to the suburbs, to the Beltway. Oh man, traffic is bad out there. Holy smokes. No worries, George. Good to have you, man. Good to have you. All right, and now this is the time to sign off too. So my apologies, but anyway, that's good for today. We're going to be heading out, and oh, here we go. Eduardo says for espresso americano, we usually pour hot water into the cup. Yeah. So that is how we do it too, right? I prefer, to me, we train our staff all like this. Americanos has to be hot water, and then we have to float the espresso on top. And by floating the espresso on top, it has to hold the crema. If it breaks, we don't really like that. So I'm totally with you on that. But this is not that. This is completely a different process. This really is brewed. Now, we are using, I can tell you that we are using a little bit of pressure to speed up the brewing process, but still it's a 2-minute brew. So 2 minutes as opposed to 4 minutes, right? But my question to you is like, if certainly the people that are ordering Americanos, they have an expectation somehow that there's espresso involved. But I'm presuming that people that are ordering brewed coffee do not have that expectation, right? They're not expecting their brewed coffee to be espresso-based drink. And I've had guests who are like, they've said that explicitly. They don't want it. They don't like Americanos. They want brewed coffee, which is perfectly understandable. And then Craig says, average American, what's this so? Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Like, will people be put off by that? And then I also recall Gaggia had to sell crema way back when. Yeah. I mean, like that was, I think I remember when I first was exposed to espresso in the 80s. Like this is like 1987, 1988. This girl that we knew, she was at art school. She had this apartment downtown and she was super stylish. Like this, she was like Chinese and like super stylish, like artsy and stylish. And she had this apartment that was kind of all white. And she had these big white drapes, like Romanesque drapes that were just blowing in the open wind. And I was like, I'm just in love. I'm like, this girl is so stylish. Who is she? And she's like, have you ever had espresso? I was like, no, what is that? She was like, let me show you. And she had this like little tiny Krups espresso maker. And she made us little espressos. We could have made wonderful babies. Anyway, a little bit too much. All right, so something to ponder for next week. And then next week we'll be back again. We'll be back again, man. Back again Monday. We'll do something a little bit more in-depth talk about coffee again. So thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you have a great weekend and maybe do some line dancing or drink some great coffee. Go check out a new coffee shop. I haven't been to my little like spot. There's a spot that I go to here called the Filling Station that I've kind of started going to, or I was going to a lot in January and early part of February. What I like, I think I've talked about what I like the most about it is the girl that works there. I mean, forget the fact that she's cute, which she is, but she's super nice, like super nice, super welcoming, super, just everything's very pleasant about it. I'm just like, I feel pleasant and happy to be here. Like, and then she knew who I was. She remembered my name. Like, I didn't tell her. I don't remember telling her I never told her my name. And she was like, now she calls me Jay. And I'm like, how did you know that? This is the kind of like interaction that I like. Service, that kind of hospitality mindset. I love it. The food, the coffee is very nice, but really to me, that's secondary to the quality of service that she provides. All right. So maybe I'll try to get there. You guys have a great one. Yeah. Coffee shops do self-service. TJ, good to have you, man. Good to see you out there. Michael, always good to see you. All right. So Time to go. I need to go and do some hustling. All right. Have a great one and see you next time.